Y'all, we're making dump cake. Come on. Welcome to Highfalutin Low Carb, the almost weekly web series where we find and test the best low carb recipes this crazy internet has to offer. Today, we're tackling low carb dump cakes. Stay tuned. All right, guys, low carb dump cakes. If you don't know what that is, it's exactly what it sounds like. They've been popular for decades because you literally dump everything into your baking dish, throw it in the oven, and you've got a cake that bakes itself around the filling. So today we're going to test two very popular options. The first of those is strawberry rhubarb dump cake, and this is by our friend Carolyn over at alldayidreamaboutfood.com. And since it's spring now, it's rhubarb season right down the lane. So I'm excited to try that. Also, the second recipe is low carb blueberry dump cake, and this is by the website fourscoreliving.com. All these links will be here in the video description and on the screen. But before we begin, I need to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of this video, and it's a product I've been using for several months, and I've been asked about it in the comment section several times, and it's the Misen chef's knife. And Misen sent this to me to try, and you know, as you can imagine, I get a lot of requests to try kitchen gadgets and equipment, and I usually turn those down, but this intrigued me after I looked up the company. They make premium cookware and knives, and y'all, this has been one of the most pleasant. I know it looks like it's just a knife, and from the moment I felt it in my hand, I was like, this is a fantastic knife. I've been using another premium brand of knives that I've had for over 25 years. I have a whole set of them, and I thought they were good. This, especially for 2 to 3 times less the price of a premium quality knife, it is just a stunning little piece. And I know that sounds like overkill, but it's the, I don't know if you call it the shank or the bolster. This here feels so fantastic in my hand. This was designed to replace an entire set of knives. I do everything from butchering meats with it to, honestly, even little delicate things like deveining shrimp. Right now, it's so satisfying. It's that feel. It's the slanted, sloped bolster that just makes this thing feel fantastic in your hand. So, and you may be wondering why I'm cutting on a cutting board, but I don't want the rhubarb to stain my filming space here. So anyway, at any rate, Misen reached out and wanted me to try this, and I've used it in several videos, and you guys have commented, hey, what's the blue knife you have? And it just is a fantastic, and I'm not a chef, guys. I'm a home cook. I've never professed to be a chef. So my knife technique isn't perfect, but it really helps, and I certainly need to practice my knife skills, but this makes doing it so easy. So guys, if you want to support me, go support Misen. The price of this thing is fantastic, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm actually going to buy a second one of these chef's knives, not because I need it, but because I want the red handle instead of the blue, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful knife. You'll be shocked at the price. So guys, if you want to help me, go check out the video link description in the video link below, and enter code HFLC to get 20% off your first order. Again, that's the video description, link in the video description. Click that, enter code HFLC for 20% off your first order. All right, I'm gonna finish this up, and let's go make some dump cakes. Come on. All right, guys, let's get started on our first recipe. Again, this is strawberry rhubarb dump cake, and this is by the website alldayidreamaboutfood.com. As you see, we've already prepared our fruits to go. This is our rhubarb and our strawberries that we've sliced, and I've gone ahead and also greased an 8x8 pan. And so we're gonna throw the berries in and the rhubarb. And I'll be very honest with you, this is one of the first times I think this may be the first rhubarb pie or cake that I have ever made. I can't recall it. So to this, we're going to add in, this is powdered swerve sweetener. You need a powdered sweetener in the filling. And then this is a little bit of xanthan gum. This will just sort of keep the, you want to sprinkle this and spread this out good. That'll keep the filling sort of thick, hopefully without being too gummy. We'll see. Now just toss this around. You just want to make sure that you're, whoops, get back in the pan. You just want to make sure all these are coated and sweet and gooey and all that wonderful stuff. And she said to grease a pan. I didn't use butter. I just used an avocado oil spray. It's fairly tasteless. And we're about to add a whole bunch of butter. So I think we'll be okay. All right, so that's ready to go. So I'm just gonna move this out of the way for a second. And now we're gonna start on our dry ingredients. And she doesn't say to, but sift, y'all. Sift your nut flours, especially if you're like me and you keep them in the freezer. So in goes almond flour. Needs to be super fine almond flour. This is a little coconut flour. Again, if you want to know how much of these I'm using, you know I don't give a recipe ingredient amounts here because these aren't my recipes. I'm just here to test them. People that did do all this hard work, they deserve the traffic. Go visit them over there at the links down here on the screen and below. And this is going to be the regular swerve sweetener, crystallized, not powdered. And then to this, we're going to add some baking powder and a little bit of salt to that. If you can see, I use pink salt. That might look a little pink to you. So let's sift this out. And whoo, look at all that swerve making all the dust. See, that's what you don't really want, those big lumps. I know I preach that often, but it is the truth. You can generally get away without sifting wheat flour, but nut flours are a different breed. Now, just gonna whisk this to make sure it is all good. And then, in true fashion, look how easy this is. This is why it's called a dump cake. Let me go get my fruit. So it's not gonna bake like a regular cake, right? It's not a leavened cake. It's more like a cobbler, right? And we're gonna spread this out over sprinkle it over. Try not to spill it out like I just did. Come on now. And this will absorb all the butter that we're about to put on this thing. You're gonna see. And it will bake up into its own, should bake up into its own cobblery dessert. Make sure you've got all of that covered. And the juices from the fruit will start to bubble up as well. Now, this is where we're going to, this is quite a bit of melted butter, and you want to get this as evenly spread across the top as you can. She said it's okay to have some dry bits. I also noticed that someone in her comment section said that another great way to do this is, instead of melting it, to cut it into slices and layer the slices on top, and it'll melt as it bakes and form a crispy crust. But we're doing it the way the recipe says because I like to follow directions exactly as written. That's the only fair way to test a recipe, in my opinion. But if I do this again, I might try the sliced method. Okay, so we've got a few little bits and stuff. So this is going to go in for about 45 minutes to a 350-degree oven until it's bubbly and golden on top, and some of the juices are peeking out the top. So I'm going to do that now, clean up, and we're going to get started on recipe number 2. I told you it was easy. Dump cakes. See you in a bit. All right, guys, so let's get started on our second recipe. The first one is in the oven. It's got about 5 more minutes before it comes out, which will give us time to preheat the oven to 375. So this is going to be, if you thought the first one was easy, this is even easier because you are starting, we don't have to prep any vegetables. This is frozen blueberries. You're going to use frozen blueberries. Again, this is low-carb blueberry dump cake by the website fourscoreliving.com. Again, recipe will be here on the screen and in the video links below. So to our berries, you're just gonna, while they're still frozen, you can use fresh, but you'll need to adjust the cooking time by about 10 minutes, she said. We're gonna sprinkle in a little bit of lemon juice and some swerve sweetener. We're using the same sweetener that we used in the other recipe. And so this is gonna macerate for just a few minutes, and then I've already prepared another 8x8 baking pan. So once you've got all this combined, I've got another 8x8 baking pan here that's already been sprayed and ready to go. And let's make sure that we don't have a ball of sweetener in the bottom like I do see. Okay, in this goes. Because they're frozen, they picked up a lot of the sweetener instantly. So let's get that out of the way. All right, and now we're gonna just do the exact same thing we did with the other one. And let me get my sifter. This is gonna be almond flour. And this is almost the reverse of the other one. The other one had more almond flour than coconut. This has more coconut flour, which this is, than almond. And then also, we're also gonna add the baking powder. This is salt, and she adds cinnamon. He or she, I don't know who the recipe developer was. So we're just gonna sift this out. Yeah, you just don't want all that stuff in your lumps, lumps, lumps. And now, whisk that together, make sure everything is combined well. You wanna get that cinnamon and baking powder evenly distributed. And we're just gonna sprinkle this over the top. And this looks like it's gonna be much less topping perhaps, although coconut flour is extremely absorbent and may expand here with the liquid coming out of the blueberries. So let me just go get our melted butter. I'll be right back. Okay, we've got a little bit of melted butter. She also said that you could substitute it with coconut oil if you wanted to do this vegan. But I love butter, and there's nothing better than blueberry dump cake with butter. Oops, we got a big glob there. He'll melt though. And then our other one is coming out right now, and I'll give the oven just a little bit of time to heat up to 375, and then this is going to go in the oven for 35 minutes. And then I'm going to let both of these cool down just a little bit, and then we're going to come back here and taste them, and I will let you know what I think. All right, so I'll see you guys back here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, so we're back. It's actually the next morning. So these have cooled to room temperature overnight. I've covered them with a little bit of foil to keep them sanitary. But this is our first recipe, the rhubarb and strawberry. This is our second recipe, the blueberry. But let's talk about nutrition before we begin the tasting. So again, this is strawberry rhubarb dump cake, and this is by alldayidreamaboutfood.com. This makes 10 servings. If you make 10 servings, one serving of this is 217 calories. You've got about 3.9 grams of protein. You have got 18.9 grams of fat. You've got 7.4 grams of total carbohydrates. Fiber is 3.4 grams, so that makes this 4 net carbs per serving if you eat a tenth of it. Our second recipe, this is low carb blueberry dump cake by the websites fourscoreliving.com. And this makes 8 servings. It's the same size dish. It looks a little larger, but they're actually both 8 by 8. And this is has a little bit less volume. If you make 8 servings, one serving is 199 calories. You got 18 grams of fat. You have got 2 grams of protein. You've got a total of 9 total carbohydrates, 2 grams of fiber, which makes this 7 net carbs per serving if you make 8. And this is 4 net carbs per serving. So, what do they taste like? Let's find out. Okay, we're gonna start with our first one here. This is the strawberry rhubarb, and as you can hear, the top is pretty sturdy. And I'll discuss that in just a moment, why that's important. So, oh yeah, the color's nice. I will admit that the serving size probably, if you were supposed to get 10 servings out of this, is a little bit small for me. I think 8 would be a little more generous. But here we go. Carolyn is known for her wonderful desserts, and I'm expecting this to follow up as well. And it's not even warm. No need to blow. Wow, there is so much flavor in that. Hold on, I gotta go again. There is so much flavor in that. Y'all, that is so good. The filling is so flavorful. I don't taste the xanthan gum at all. She said you can use glucomannan flour or xanthan gum. I use the latter. And usually I can detect that immediately. This is fantastic. I was worried that because it was a dump cake and you weren't adding moisture to the topping, that it would be kind of sandy feeling, as you know, sometimes almond flour can be, but it's not. And she specifically says that she prefers to use erythritol in this recipe instead of like bocha sweet or xylitol or allulose, because those will make a softer breading instead of a crunchy, crispy top. That, holy smokes, that's good. I don't know that you would tell anybody that that's low carb and they would believe it. Okay, let's take our second one. This is the low carb blueberry dump cake. The texture on this, I can already tell you, is much softer. And in their defense, the recipe instructions, even though this is rated very highly, oh, it's beautiful. The recipe instructions say that the topping is sort of like bread pudding. So it's not a crispy top. Wow, that's pretty. The color, I don't know if you can see the beautiful purple, but holy smokes, that is beautiful. So there's not as much, there was far less breading cake in this than the other one, but oddly has more carbs, almost double. So, really good. Definitely know the cinnamon is there. Perhaps even a little too much cinnamon, I think. Really good. Hold on. Y'all, both of these were fantastic. I've got to say though, and it's not just because we've tested some of her recipes before, but Carolyn's rhubarb and strawberry is simply out of this world. If I were to rate these, I would say this is a solid 8 and this is a solid 9 or 10. These are both really great recipes. This the blueberry was much easier, obviously, because you're using frozen blueberries. But I understand that you can buy frozen rhubarb as well. So maybe that's an option if you don't have rhubarb in your area. But for one of my first rhubarb desserts, this was fantastic. I can't wait to dig into that as soon as this camera goes off. That was really, really good. So low carb dump cake. Can it be done? You better believe it. It might not be as easy as out of a box, but it's certainly easier than mixing up an entire cake. And these are fantastic, and I don't think anybody would know that either of these were low carb or keto or sugar-free. So thank you guys for joining me. I say it every time, these videos are a way for me to maintain my low carb way of eating, and looking in the end of that camera as often as I can helps keep me honest. So I appreciate that you guys have come along for the journey. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. It's just Highfalutin Low Carb. On both of those platforms, I talk a little more frequently and a little more freely there, so you can sort of stay up to date with me there. I also need to give another quick thank you to the sponsor of this video, Misen, for that gorgeous chef's knife. It is fantastic, and like I said, I'm buying a second one because I just want the red handle. I know that's petty, but it is beautiful, and I'll gift the other one away to a friend or a relative, but I love the way it handles. So if you want to support me, support them, go to the link in my description below, use promo code HFLC, and you'll get 20% off your first order. So thank you, Misen, for sponsoring this. And lastly, I need to thank my rock stars, my Patreon sponsors. You're going to see their names start to scroll here. If you don't know what Patreon is, think of it as the tip jar for the internet. It allows people like you who enjoy what people like me do here on YouTube, and you can give $1 to a month just to sort of keep the train on the tracks, as it were. So got some content over there you may want to check out. So without these guys, none of this would be possible. So truly, they are my rock stars, and I really want to thank them. And lastly, I'll see you guys very soon for another low carb video. All right, bye-bye.